Welcome to Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Today, we're delighted to have our guest, Majdi Rabia, who is the analytics engineer of lemlist. Lemlist, correct? Did I pronounce it right?
Perfect. Perfect.
I
Perfect
want to first
pronunciation.
of all, I want to thank you for joining us. And could you start by introducing yourself and provide us a bit of insights on your background and expertise before we dive into it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think there are a lot to say, but I'm going to try to keep it very, very short and concise. So I grew up in the suburb of Paris, the north side. You can call it the Bronx of Paris. Not super nice. I mean, back then to go in there, but that's where I grew up and learned a lot. I would say in my childhood. Then decided somehow, we didn't have like many choices as second generation immigration immigrants. We had pretty much choice between being a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. So I went for the last one. So I tried to follow the engineering path and ended up somehow in Singapore, where I mastered and graduated, sorry, in a double degree. So I studied machine learning for finance and ended up, in the fintech at the beginning of my career back in 2015 and 2016, and followed there maybe 3 years before I give up on the financial products. I mean, we were helping the big banks reducing, I would say, the risk in the market. And I would say, mathematically speaking, it was super ambitious and challenging, but I went to something completely different. Ended up at Entrepreneur First in Singapore, met the co-founder, and we decided, to go for something very different, which is the
Oh,
music tech, and helping artists basically recover their royalties or missing royalties. There is a big black box of untapped royalties where
I wonder how much money in that big black box.
last article I saw was about $2 to $3 billion, but I think there is much more than that, to be honest.
And just sits there. Sits there.
And just is there. I mean, there are a lot of causes to that. I mean, you can have the metadata sometimes that is just wrongly put. You can have also the detection systems that are not put in place, and that's where we actually tried, to bring value. We built not only the technology, so we had our own technology to detect the videos that were using illegally or your content as an artist, and then we were claiming it for you. And after a couple of years, so 3 years and a half to be completely accurate, I decided to move on to new things. Wanted to start something else last year in Lisbon. So yeah, Singapore, Lisbon, and then I didn't find a co-founder, so I came back to Paris, where I wanted to join basically a scale up. So Lemlist is a scale up, doing today almost 28 million, actually more than 28 million recurring annual revenue, and growing at a very very fast pace. And it doesn't have anything to do with music business, so it's very tough for me, I mean, at the beginning, going to something that is a little bit more B2B SaaS, product for sales, and trying to readapt and learn on a new topic. So yeah, I'm helping them build their analytics and making more and more data driven business decisions. I hope I kept it short, maybe more
Yes.
than
No,
two
no,
minutes, but
amazing. No, no.
I hope
Hey,
it's concise enough.
this is all about you. It's your show. It's about
Thanks,
the lights
thanks.
on you, buddy. So you said something, finance, machine learning,
Yeah.
and it's pretty intriguing to me. Just how do you train, uh, you know, an ML, a software, or what do you call it,
A model.
on yeah, the model on money and machine, I mean, it's called machine learning, but how do you train it on money? Like how would you do that? Like what's
Yeah, yeah.
the
You have different, I would say, use cases. The one I was mostly focused on is derivatives and options. So, if you have like a call option, basically you are, you have a certain option and to buy a stock at a certain price. And, we try to predict the price of the stock in the future. And you use machine learning, so past data, to try to predict the future stock prices. I remember writing an article actually that was pretty much funny, uh, about how I was expecting or predicting based on these ML
does
models
it work?
that this
Does it
that's the
work?
thing, is I
You
predicted that Tesla was gonna completely plunge back in 2018, and I went on to be completely wrong. So you need to be really careful because there are so many variables that you cannot control on these models. Sometimes just an election or just a tweet, can change everything. So it's almost impossible for me to predict anything like the fear. And for finance today, the use cases are more on the LLM side, trying to read and summarize the news for the hedge funds or do some automated stuff like this. But I don't really believe in predicting the future.
Hmm. Creating a prediction machine. That's what you're doing, AI prediction machine. So it doesn't really always work. You have to be extremely careful. What do you feed it? What do you feed the model with?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Shit in, shit out. I mean, if you don't put
Yeah.
the right system in place, you get just the wrong answers.
Listen, the whole world is about data. Data is extremely important. I mean, Facebook is building a massive compound somewhere in the states here in America, and for data, huge. They're spending billions of dollars for it. So let's talk about data. That's where you started your internship. You were a data scientist in New York, actually, in City College, New York. You were you had an
Exactly.
internship. Let's talk about data, how important it is, and how does it, and what kind of role right now it plays in our AI kind of era that we entering. Everything AI. Now, yes, the word AI get used very loosely a lot. Everybody, yes, everybody, AI, yes, AI built AI this, AI that, and three
Mm,
quarters of this stuff is not really AI. It's pretty much, yeah,
we,
certain
the least we can
automation.
say.
Yes, yes. So please,
Yeah, so I actually started, I mean, fitting or I would say encountering a lot of data when I went to New York. It was a research internship in City College, as you said, and it was more oriented to neuroscience. So we basically had a lot of data about neurons firing. So if we just try to summarize or really simplifying it, our neurons fire at a certain level. So there is a threshold after which you have neuron firing. And firing means sending an information to another neuron. And you have all these neurons being connected, sending information to each other. And basically, we're trying to predict when the neuron was going to fire. And so we have past data, once again, trying to predict the future. So a use case of this or a real, I would say, consequence of this is trying to predict when there might be an epilepsy. So this is like a direct, I would say, use case. And yeah, I had only 3 months, so it's very tough to do such a big research project on a very short amount of time. But with school and and yeah, having to graduate and go to Singapore, I didn't really have time to dive super deep into this. So it was the first time I encountered data, and when I realized that data was going to be the big thing, it was in 2015 already, and prices were much lower though in New York back then. But thank God I did it back then, because now I don't think I would be able to afford it.
I mean, data is everything, pretty much.
Yeah, that's where you build. That's how you build your models in any kind of AI company today. You need data. You need to have all these systems put in place. But what is tough with data is uh, if you don't have the right data, which means not the clean data at the beginning, you can really end up with uh, bad outputs or the wrong outputs. So as I said, shit in, shit out. So if your data doesn't say much or it's completely biased at the beginning, you're gonna end up with some biased model, and that's what happened at Gemini. If you remember the Google model that tried to compete with ChatGPT, it was completely biased because they tried to give it such a an unbiased way. I mean, an unbiased view that they just ended up having it completely woke.
Hmm, interesting. Um, I mean, as you said, yes, predicting the future. It's something very intriguing to me when you said that, and based on data and the right data. But again, predicting the future based on previous results and behavioral. Let's say with a human being, you can predict the future with them based on their certain previous actions or their mind. I mean, could that be? Is this the future where we're going to?
That's usually the most common use case, the prediction or predictive models, predictive modeling in the
Yeah,
data
yeah.
space, where you try to replicate or try to analyze the past to predict the future. But this is actually, there is a great book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb called Anti-Fragile, or can also call The Black Swan. There are things that you just cannot control. Coronavirus, you cannot control it. The 2008 crisis, okay, maybe some people actually saw it coming, but there are things that you just cannot control. And predicting the future, the problem is with these models, they don't take extremes or very low probability to the extremes, and you just end up sometimes completely overruling it, and it might just destroy your model, and you end up with bad consequences. So for me, yeah, predicting the future based on the past can be super powerful in some ways, in some cases, but in general, trying to predict the future for me not the is not that easy. You need to have all the variables involved, so you need to be super specific in your models and make sure that you know exactly what you're trying to predict.
Hmm. Um, how did you manage to raise successfully? $200,000, should we say?
This was actually the pre-seed
Yeah,
amount that we had. The thing is, out of this, I mean, half of it comes from EF, Entrepreneur First. So the program, after 3 months, you go through an investment committee, and this investment committee decides or not to invest in your company. So it was 80K back then for 10% of your company. I don't know if it changed since then. I think they even
yeah,
closed in Singapore. So this is how we actually raised half of this money, and then the rest was coming from business angels. Some we have actually had before in our network, so friends of friends or mentors, and some others we just texted on LinkedIn. And from that, especially from the music industry, we connected because there is this thing called music and artists and something that we vibe for together, and we decided to tackle this problem together. And yeah, we got people involved in this, so that's how we came up with this amount just before. Fun fact, it was like 2 weeks before all the lockdowns. So I think if we didn't raise it that time, I don't think we would have survived after
How do
that.
you see what do you see the future holding for AI and data? Like, how do you see this thing going forward as far as in general? I know you see so much going on with AI, this, AI, that, but how do you see the future really kind of, there's so much, I would say, not chaos, but there's so much being thrown from different direction. AI this, data, AI that, but I think it's going to eventually come together. What's your, I wouldn't say prediction, but so as an
It's tough.
entrepreneur, as somebody who is a software engineer and involved in that business, what's your vision on it? Your outlook?
It's a really like tough question to answer in the sense that I think we are at the crossroads like in the
Yeah,
late 90s. I mean I was 6 years old, so I was super young in the late 90s, but we had also the same thing almost with the blockchain and the NFTs. There is always a lot of noise at the beginning, so you have a lot of people trying to get in because they feel like there
yeah,
is the ship going and they don't want to miss it. There is this big FOMO going, so
yeah,
no one wants to miss the ship. But at some point, how you also get a lot of noise and very very like bullshit stuff, bullshit companies, and just
yeah,
people raising funds here and there. So I think that is gonna come down at some point and like come back to where it should belong and going to the real hands of experts in AI, I would say, and people who are really passionate about it. But it's gonna just change everything we do. I think it's one of the biggest innovation we've had for a while. I don't think I actually had, as I told you, I mean, the internet has changed a lot, but I feel like I've grown up in this I mean, I was 12 years old, I think, when I had my first internet connection, and I kind of like, got used to it. So I don't feel like there was a big difference before in my life. Of course, I was just watching TV and maybe
yeah.
doing some other things, but yeah, I think that's definitely a big systemic change for everyone because we all gonna have to adapt. I mean, me actually as the first person at the forefront, I think it's even the first time that such a social class, I would say, of people who went to I mean, who graduated and had like a went to big universities are going to be replaced. Me the first. I mean, all the stuff I do on a daily basis can be replaced almost by the AI. Now, what we need to do is adapt to this, bring in more value to either companies we work for or the companies that we decide to build. So that's for me the path to go right now is trying to adapt as much as possible. Learn definitely how to use it because you're gonna not compete with the AI. You're gonna compete with the one who can use AI, in my opinion, in the future. So
Hmm.
that's gonna be the thing for the future.
At a point in time earlier this year, I saw so many brand new startups with AI, and I saw a little bit of a slowdown on it right now because there was so many coming in, and now kind of it took a plateau.
Hmm.
And yeah, the what contribute to that? Do you think?
I think a lot of things. First of all, there is less and less money around, with all the interest rates. I mean, at a peak level, even if it's going down lately.
Hmm.
I mean, raising funds is becoming more and more difficult, even if you put AI in your deck. I mean, if you don't come from
Why?
OpenAI or DeepMind, because I mean, at the beginning you need some revenue, right? I mean, you can of course invest in potential and take some risk on people, but I think there was too much noise at the beginning and people actually just building on top of OpenAI and not really bringing
Yes.
any value on top of this. They didn't
Yes.
have their proprietary model. They didn't have any IP behind it. They
No.
were just building on top of API
Yeah,
on
it's basically
ChatGPT, and they were being
creating a
replaced very
service.
fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And at every
Creating.
release, yeah, and every release of ChatGPT or OpenAI was bringing some replacement or actually just replacing you because what you built didn't have that much of a value. So that's why I think it's kind of calming down because now people realize that if you want to really be on top or really raise funds or just really bring some value in the ecosystem, you're gonna have either to build your own models or really have proprietary stuff that distinguish you and has a unicity in the market. Otherwise, you're just going to be replaced by AI very, very quickly.
Hmm. Um, as an entrepreneur, what challenges really you kind of faced throughout your journey? You're young, but still throughout your journey so far.
Way too many challenges. But I think one of them is, I think one of the biggest challenge for me, coming from a non-entrepreneurial journey is how to
Yeah.
adapt and understand what raising funds mean. There is the thing that I was kind of scared because, I always grew up with very, very little money and having I don't know, raising funds scared the shit out of me. I was so scared about it because I felt like I was owning everyone money and it was just living with this or getting in this world that you raise funds because people believe in you and they know that this money is something that is risky.
Hmm.
I mean, if you want less risk, you just put your money in bonds, right? And it's something that I didn't really know how to handle at the beginning. And to be honest, I kind of burned out because of that. I was super, super scared about it because I really just wanted, 10, return 10x to my investors or 100x. And
Yeah.
I put too much pressure on myself. So I think it was the biggest challenge for me is how to live with in a fundraising. And that's why, here at Lemlist, we are a bootstrapped company. So I wanted also to see how it is when you start your company and try to bootstrap it. So there are two different worlds, the bootstrapping, I would say, and the VC funds. I took a harsh hit at the beginning with the VC world, but I think now if I go for it again at some point, I think I know how to handle it. I mean, I hope so. But I also know how the bootstrapping now works and how we can also be successful in both ways. Define it just depends how we define success.
Um, well, out of that, what advice you would have for the any of these young entrepreneurs who want to carve their own path in the tech, AI, ML model building path?
Yeah, so any advice to the youngsters right now getting really used to the generative AI stuff going on? Don't try to just replace almost everything everyone told you in the past 5 years because you cannot just use SQL or Python like you used to. You need to be able
Yeah.
to use ChatGPT for even if you're a software engineer, you need to be able to use it every day. You need to go super fast. You need to deliver super fast. This is the first thing. I mean, even if you are actually a lawyer, also you need to understand that now you're not just gonna write reports, write this. I mean, AI is gonna do so much for you. Of course, there is still the human touch, and there are things that cannot be done, obviously, by AI. But yeah, I would say right now is getting hands-on on AI and using it on a daily basis because you're gonna. I mean, they're gonna be better than us, and I'm actually scared also about it because I don't want like a gap to happen between me and the next generation. But I think they're gonna have a big, very, very big change coming their way. I would have loved, to have all these tools 10 years ago so that I don't have to spend so much time trying to write my reports or just write some code or even, be stuck trying to debug some stuff when I was in school.
Hmm. Interesting. What's next for you? What's the future bringing? Anything you would like to share with us that you're working on or that you're going to come up with?
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question. Here right now, I'm trying to build the data team at Lemlist. Hopefully, we can really like bring more and more data driven decisions to the team and grow Lemlist. So we're growing at almost 30% year on year. Hopefully, we get to the status or to a level where we can really we'll be happy, we'll be proud. We're growing actually, yeah, as I said, a very good pace. That's for now the project that I have. Obviously, at some point, I want to start something again. I just want to take a step back for now and be on another shoe and deliver, I would say, happiness for someone else. But yeah, hopefully after that I can start something new if I have an idea coming up and a problem I'm really excited about.
Amazing. Well, Majdi, I have to say, pretty intriguing, interesting outlook on what you do, and on the, an interesting dive, I should say, in the AI world and the data. I want to say thank you for
My
joining us
pleasure.
today.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you for
thanks.
joining us on Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Please be sure to join us and connect with us on social media. Until next time, keep innovating, stay curious, and think outside the box. Thanks and take care. See you next time.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech podcast. And if you're joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.